Hello, my name is Ben Mortner, and welcome back to a show that we used to call Life, the Universe, and Movies, but I don't know if we're still using that name. So today we're going to be talking about many topics. This is my co-host, Desi Feldman. Introduce yourself, Desi.
Hello, everybody. I'm Desi.
Wow, well, what an interesting thing to say. All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about, which actually came out last week on Friday. Marvel's newest Netflix show, Luke Cage. It's pretty good. We're only going to be talking about the first 8 episodes or so, maybe 7 or 6, because Desi was lazy and didn't watch the whole thing in 2 days, because who would do that, am I right?
So,
Me.
Spoiler alert, if you have not seen the first about 6 or 7 episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, I am totally liable to spoil anything of the 13 episodes. So, who knows, right? Could be one wild ride.
Okay, then let's get back on topic here.
Okay.
So, Luke Cage is the Marvel Netflix. It's its newest show. It's about like the 3rd installment in its new like Defender series.
Yeah, technically 4th if you count Daredevil season 2.
Technically 4th, but it's the 3rd superhero.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen a little bit of Luke Cage before in Jessica Jones, but this was the first time he's the main character. So this show, I really love this show. I think it's a very good show, which really shouldn't come as a surprise considering the last 2 Marvel shows, Daredevil and Jessica Jones, were also like incredibly good. So
Yeah.
I think Luke Cage is like, I really love the show. I like the character Luke Cage. I think one of the things we should appreciate about him is that he's a total badass, because I don't think Marvel's had a character that badass in a while. He literally... Okay, I think one of the things I like best about the show is just all like the cool moments. I think that's what sets it apart from like Daredevil and Jessica Jones.
Yeah. It's I love the way how the music is integrated into the story and the scenes, and it's just, my God, that's so cool. And I like the way this is just a nice little Easter egg. Each episode is actually named after a song.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe they actually had a few rappers like guest starring in the episode. I'm not playing like different roles, obviously.
Yeah, but I think the music's a great part of the show. It gives you like more of like a New York Harlem feel to it too, which helps. I think it's a great choice.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of music-based storytelling, because it's just, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy did it, obviously.
Yeah.
And that was executed so well. And I love that movie. It's probably one of my favorite Marvel movies, but that's off
Luke
track.
Cage definitely has some of the elements with the music giving you like a nice tone to the movie or to the show, just like Guardians of the Galaxy did.
Yeah. I've always if I ever got into the film industry, and started making movies, I would love to make something that was like driven by its music. I find it such an interesting idea, because
Well, I think music and with movies and TV is what sets the tone. Now, a lot of people don't notice it, but music can make you feel happy, it can make you feel sad, it can make you feel scared, and that's what gives you the emotions in the movie. Sure, like the dialogue and acting can also make you feel certain emotions, but it's the music that like really kills it.
Yeah, actually, I recently watched a video. I forget who it's by, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty popular, so probably not robbing them that much from the one person who is currently listening. Probably not robbing them from views or something. So they made a video about how in the Marvel movies, right, how the music affects the storytelling, and how, for the most part, except for Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, Marvel movies score their movies pretty safely, as in, like, all the music is basically just kind of ambience. And
yeah, well, they have the 2 French horns always playing in their Avengers theme.
Yeah, it's the Avengers theme, and that's pretty much it. And
yeah, fair.
It's just, it's not even the music, because a lot of the music from these movies are very good, although a lot of it is ambience. But some of the stuff is very good. It just isn't, it's integrated in the movie so it's not noticed.
Yeah. I think Luke Cage, on the other hand, you do notice the music.
Yeah, you definitely do, and it's making a point.
A cool feel. Like, some of his fight scenes have really cool music. Like the one where he breaks into.
Where like in the second episode, he puts on headphones and he breaks into a secure place, which I think might be actually my favorite scene from the entire show.
Really?
Because it's the first time you see Luke
Cage
really using the extent of his powers, and I just find it so entertaining. And I'm pretty sure the second episode might be my favorite episode of the series because of that scene. Yeah. And it also has
get to see,
the speech at the beginning and end of the episode, which I just found, wow, that is some powerful stuff.
Well, they used his powers well, and I like the way they shot a lot of the scenes. Like, I think that part where he's walking down the hall and it's like slightly slowed down, you see just the bullets bouncing off his chest, and he's like doing that slow, super cool walk. I think that was a really great shot. You see all the bullet holes in his sweatshirt, and you can tell he's not getting affected by it. So
actually, you brought up the cinematography of the show. I found myself being really engaged in the cinematography at certain points. Like, usually I notice this stuff. Like in Stranger Things, I am just such a fan of that show. We're actually going to be talking about that later today, later in the hour. And the cinematography in that show is just so good. Not to say that Luke Cage's cinematography is bad, but I did notice a couple of times, hey, this shot's pretty cool, except sometimes I did feel myself, hey, this shot isn't the best, and there's definitely some shaky cam in there.
I think I kind of was expecting another. Well, I wasn't expecting one, but I was hoping that they'd have a couple of shots shot like the way Daredevil was shot. The wide shots that were all like a really long shot of him fighting. But most of Luke Cage's fight scenes were shot pretty tightly. So I don't think the action was quite as good as Daredevil, although it still was very good. I do like the way they emphasize certain points. One shot that really stood out to me was, I think this was the first episode, when the Chinese place that he lives above gets robbed. He puts his hand over the gun to stop the bullet, and the bullet goes into his hand, and he opens his hand, and he's just holding the bullet, and his hand is fine. When I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that is so cool. What?
Oh my god.
And then the other guy just ran away. He's like, I'm out of here. I think that was one of my favorite shots.
So let's go through this episode by episode, right?
Okay.
Episode 1, I actually found not that engaging. I found the opening scene to be pretty comical. I liked it.
Remind me of the opening scene.
The opening scene is where they're in the barbershop and they're just talking. I really like that. And but in the middle of that episode, I found myself to be pretty bored, to say the least. It was definitely taking its time. Which is a trend throughout this show. I don't feel like this show had enough material for 13 episodes, and there's some very interesting choices that they made in the latter half, which I'm still not certain are good for the show's actual quality.
We'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay. I found the end of the episode, if I remember correctly, to be at the end. I was, this is a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I was about to say at the end, I thought it was pretty cool. It ended with a bang. It ended with a fight scene at the Chinese place, and
it's like, oh yeah, Luke Cage is a cool dude.
Yeah,
he's
that was really cool.
It was just a reminder that there's a superhero show, right?
Yep.
I think that might have been what kind of got me about it, right? It's the general atmosphere of the first episode that made it seem more like, I don't know, probably like a police investigation sort of deal.
Yeah, I guess.
More than, and I mean, Luke Cage wasn't the main character. Luke Cage wasn't really in the first episode a lot, and I guess that might be to emphasize at the end where he just comes in and he's being Luke Cage. To emphasize that.
Yeah. All right. You want? Let's move on to the second episode now. So, second episode.
Yeah. I mean, this is where the spoilers are really gonna start coming in. So if you want to tune out right now, then well. You're warned. So, in episode 2, it begins with this great speech by Luke Cage about race and slurs, and it's just, wow, that really blew my mind. I mean,
he has a really good voice too.
Yeah, man, Mike Coulter has a great, fantastic voice. Jeez. Why can't he do music? Oh man, that speech hit me hard, and I mean, I'm not a person of color, so I assume to someone who is a person of color that would have been way more impactful, which just shows to say, hey, this show's writing is really good.
Yeah.
in some areas.
Also, the second episode, I believe that was the one where he broke into a highly secured area where there's like millions of dollars.
Yeah. Again, great fight scene.
Yeah, that was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
That was also dropped that was like the first trailer was parts of that fight scene. So,
I think episode 3 definitely like continued episode 2's quality. It started to feel like, hey, we're picking up steam. We're going to do stuff, and then at the end, Cottonmouth, who's the villain, who I think we'll talk about throughout this discussion because. Yeah. I have so many mixed feelings about him.
Yeah, I feel that.
And
yeah,
he shoots a missile at I believe it's Luke's.
Well, he shoots a missile at
landlady.
Well, no,
he shoots at Luke Cage while he's talking to his landlady. And house goes down. Fourth episode uses the excuse of them getting out of the rubble while Luke digs out of it, to save.
They gave sort of an origin story to Luke Cage.
Yeah, they went into his origin story, and I might be getting ahead of myself a bit, but I totally forgot that that this is going to be a spoiler warning for Jessica Jones, by the way. Jessica Jones actually killed Luke's wife. I totally forgot about that. And I was like, hey, why didn't they get into that in the show? And then I just realized, that's why.
They got into it.
Man, Jessica Jones is a great show.
Okay. And let's get back before we go too far. Okay.
So
I actually really liked the origin episode.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good.
I've talked to people about this, and there seems to be a really like mixed feeling about the entire episode. So what's your opinion?
I really liked it. I'm of the unpopular opinion where I don't think origin stories are a waste of time.
I totally 100% disagree.
I think origin stories can be done better. They can be done good because it kind of just shows character development, and you get to
sure, they can be done good.
Yeah, and I think Luke Cage's was done very well. It shows where he started, and it shows like how he got to where he is today, which I thought was really cool. They also included flashbacks of Rifa, who's his dead wife now.
Rifa, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I also they had teases at his costume.
Oh yeah, that was
cool.
I am still not sure how I feel about. I get it in this case, but I'm not sure how I feel about quote unquote like gritty reimaginings of characters like making fun of their old costume.
Well, I think
to give an example, it happened in X-Men, and we all know that like the first X-Men movie. I love that movie, but the costumes, they look even cheesier than it would be if it was actually yellow spandex.
Yeah. But I think in Luke Cage's case, I think it was very appropriate. I don't think the bright yellow shirt and the tiara are a good choice to put on a character like him.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I do like how they acknowledged it when he steals someone's laundry and puts on a white shirt and he still has a tiara and the cuffs on.
A few months ago, Mike Coulter in an interview said, we're actually doing the tiara in Luke Cage.
No way.
And I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. That is the one element I did not want. That is one of the elements that I did not expect them to adapt, and it's one of the elements that I did not want them to adapt.
Well, maybe they'll find a way to make it cool. These days, a lot of superhero costumes have a lot.
Sure. But then, of course, we found out that it's a one-time gag. But man, I am just not sure how I feel about superhero shows and movies who just say, this costume is really cheesy, and our costume is so much better. Fun fact, Luke Cage never puts on a yellow shirt, which I find...
Wait, no, he puts one on...
He never has a yellow shirt in this series besides the
flashback. Right?
Yeah, besides the flashback.
Most of the time he's wearing like black or gray.
Which is very weird because Luke Cage's costume is one of the easiest costumes to replicate.
Yeah,
it's just a yellow shirt and jeans.
I actually, personally, I think they made a good choice choosing to ditch those yellow shirt and jeans. I think that he wouldn't look as like intimidating and as badass as he does.
I don't know, man. It works in the costume in the comics, and I get that some things just can't be translated. But I feel like a yellow shirt would be something that could be translated very easily.
They did enough by just making a tease at it.
Yeah. Okay. So, you said your opinion on the 4th episode.
Yes, I said I enjoyed it.
I think my opinion's a little different. I definitely see the first time I watched it, and the only time, but the when I watched it, I was like, yeah, this is a pretty decent episode. This might even be my favorite. But as I looked back on it, I said, oh, hey, there's definitely some things in here that don't quite make sense. And
like what?
Just like I'm not going to spoil the latter half of the season for you because you haven't seen it, but there's just some stuff that doesn't add up. Okay. And or is just unnecessary.
Well, they do have to make like a nearly hour-long episode.
Yeah. Squabbles. I feel like they definitely could have made his whole thing more emotional because I get that we didn't really have a lot of time to get attached to him, but they just kill what is supposed to be Luke's only friend off screen, and it doesn't have the emotional resonance that I think it should have, right?
Yeah.
So.
Reefer kind of just said Squabbles is dead.
Squabbles is dead.
There wasn't. Yeah. Sometimes when a character dies, you like gasp or something.
Yeah.
With Squabbles, it was like, okay.
They killed Squabbles.
And Luke Cage didn't seem to acknowledge that, but I really don't think it was very necessary for them to make a big deal out of Squabble's death.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's just more adding on to show that the guards and the people working for them are just kind of sick.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess for the next few episodes, it's kind of just the same stuff. Luke, or actually,
well, let's talk about Cottonmouth's death.
Yeah, actually, that was a pretty major spoiler right there. If you still didn't get the message, this discussion has spoilers. I believe it was at the end of episode 6. Cottonmouth dies.
Yeah,
and
which I really didn't see that coming because
I didn't see it coming either because
it's only halfway through the season. I mean, I thought maybe he might die at the end, but
yeah, I found myself
die in like the middle of the season.
I found myself so very perplexed by this decision because on one side of the spectrum, I feel that Cottonmouth is just way too similar to Kingpin
Davis.
from Daredevil, who was the villain in Daredevil season 1.
Yeah. Although Kingpin, I think he was a great villain. So, and I really like Daredevil season 1, but like, so I can understand why they might think, oh, Cottonmouth being so similar would also be a great villain.
Yeah,
And I guess he was, but it felt more or less the same of what we'd already seen. It wasn't anything new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I think, which is odd, because I feel like this show tried to kind of differentiate itself from the other Marvel shows by having a more music-focused thing, which we talked about earlier. A music-focused story, which we talked about earlier. And it was odd to see that Cottonmouth was so similar. And in the first couple of episodes, I found him not very threatening as a villain.
Really?
Looking back on it, I understand why it was, for maybe like the first 2 or 3 episodes, I found him, hey, what's this guy gonna do? He doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah,
he doesn't have anything that could stop Luke Cage.
Threatening at all to Luke Cage, because when you see them next to each other, although the guy who plays Cottonmouth, he's a pretty big guy. When he's next to Luke Cage, he looks very small.
He looks, I mean...
Well, pretty much everyone next to Luke Cage looks small, but...
Yeah.
I think a villain should look like he's a match for Luke Cage, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't look like he could put Luke Cage up any way at all.
I mean, it was just... So, but I also found Cottonmouth had a very interesting dynamic with Luke Cage, in that they knew each other, man. They had seen each other at, like, Pop's barbershop and stuff, and it was
had like a mutual friend between them.
Yeah, it was, even though they were on the opposite side of this thing, they definitely, I felt like they had some degree of respect for each other, or at least not like...
Well, a lot of the times you hear them say what Pop would have wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because it's their dead mutual friend, so they want to pay respect to him. But they both have different opinions on what Pop would have wanted.
What Pop would have... This Pop guy was a very undecisive character.
Cottonmouth knew Pop when Pop was more of like a criminal living on the streets, and then Luke knew Pop when he had kind of reformed himself and changed his life around and became a barber.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, so like at Pop's funeral, right? I get that Luke Cage and Pop were like friends for like a few months or something, but I realized that everybody knows Pop around here, right?
Yeah.
And Luke has only known him for like 3 months. But here he is,
didn't
being
Luke Cage live in Hell's Kitchen before?
He was in Georgia for most of his time, and then I think
Jessica Jones.
He moved to Hell's Kitchen with Reva.
Yeah, and we see that in Jessica Jones, and then he moved to Harlem. So
yeah,
it
after
makes
Jessica
sense
Jones,
that he only met Pop like 3 months.
Yeah, of course. It makes sense. Except I'm just saying it's kind of weird that they depict him as. I get that a relationship like that can be formed within a small amount of time, but it's kind of weird how he seems like he's the most important person talking at his funeral. Like, what about the other guy, right? Who's always at the barbershop playing chess? What's he doing?
Well,
why isn't he making a great speech?
I'm sure he gave a good speech too at the funeral, but they don't want to add that in.
Yeah.
They only want to show speeches that will like advance the plot. So they just show Cottonmouth and Luke, who are like the rivals in the show.
Another great scene was when Luke like stops the girl from taking out the gun, right? At Pop's funeral.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was... I mean, it's another reminder that, like... I just kind of love scenes like that, where in superhero shows... I feel like it's definitely been done in one of the Superman movies or comics or something, where a regular person is trying to do something bad for a good reason. Yeah. Or they're morally conflicted about something.
One of the things...
And a superhero just makes them, like, stop doing it. I find those scenes so compelling to me.
Okay, I guess it's a little corny, but... Okay.
Yeah.
I did like, though, there was... it gave me like I started like feeling tension in the room because of that. I wasn't sure if like stuff was about to go down or anything, because there certainly was that tension, and I wouldn't be surprised if
that's another thing I liked about Cottonmouth as a villain. You could feel his presence. You know, it was whenever Luke and him were in the same room together, I was just
you could feel the tension.
But then he dies, right? And it's kind of whoa, right?
Yeah,
it's
because when I forget his cousin's name, the councilwoman, but
Mariah Dillard.
Yeah, that's what. Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember when she started hitting him, I was like, okay. And then when she pushed him out the window, and then you see him like crawling around to the floor all bloody. I kind of expected him to just, I don't know, maybe appear in a hospital in the next episode or whatever. But then you see police at a crime scene and it's his dead body. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's actually dead. Like, they're not going to say he survived some super big injury. Like, they do that to a lot of major characters. But with Cottonmouth, he was actually dead, which I thought was really cool.
Dude, I was just, wow, right? It was such a different way than I was expecting them to take. And honestly, I am still not sure how I feel about it, because I'm not a huge fan of the villain that comes after Cottonmouth. Yeah. And who I'm not going to spoil.
Well, we'll save that for another day.
But because, for probably next week. Hey, listen to us next week. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. BostonFreeRadio.com. But also, I love the way that you just don't see it coming. There's definitely a loss of what could have been a good villain. It does something different from the other Netflix shows,
or
but
just any superhero show or movie.
I do love how it kind of plays with your mind. And if the next villain of the show was better, or even just as good as Cottonmouth, I would have totally accepted it. But that's a story for another day.
It's just cool because it's a lot more unique. I can't think of another superhero TV show or movie. You might be able to think of one. I can't right now. That has ever killed off the villain halfway through the series or halfway through the movie.
I mean, that's the reason why, right? It's a twist, different. And I can't recall anything right now that's any superhero show at least that has killed off their main villain halfway through.
All right, I believe that covers the first 6 episodes.
That covers the first 6 episodes. Desi, you should really get to watching the rest of the series, man. It's been out for a whole 6 days. That's a lot of time to watch, Desi. All right, so what else came out this week? Yesterday, they revealed the name and a poster for the new Wolverine movie, which is now officially titled Logan. I assume it's based off the Old Man Logan storyline, which is kind of just generally what I've seen from like what most people are assuming from the production details. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the Old Man Logan comic, but I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the Civil War comic either, and they did that so much better. Obviously, different companies. They came out with a description for this movie saying that it would be the darkest X-Men movie yet, which I am still not sure how I feel about movie makers advertising their product as, oh, it's dark and gritty and stuff.
I've never been like a big fan of dark superhero movies because superheroes, just the concept, is pretty ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't think they should take them super seriously.
But I mean, it can be done well, which is shown by like X-Men: Days of Future Past, which doesn't necessarily have like dark elements in it. But it does have like some very dark themes, and if you can, I am a big believer in that you can definitely explore mature themes in children's television too, or any type of movie or television or whatever, any type of media. Great example, The Spectacular Spider-Man. That's a cartoon, and it's one of the best works of media, best works of superhero media. It's probably the best adaptation of Spider-Man, actually.
Okay.
To a screen. I'm hoping Homecoming will top it.
Okay.
But it's just.
So back to
back to
the
Logan.
topic of dark superhero movies, like you were saying. They can be done well, but they also can be done really bad, which is clear with Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. And those two were pretty dark superhero movies, and they weren't good.
I mean, like, just because you want something to be dark doesn't mean you have to forget what you're writing about. Because with Batman v Superman, they didn't go into this, let's make an adaptation of a character or characters that people love. They went in saying, hey, how can we fix Batman and Superman, two of the most classic and iconic characters of all time?
Yeah, well, then most of the things that were on their mind, I think, was just making a lot of money and competing with Marvel.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's occupying them too much to actually make a decent movie.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Suicide Squad yet, but it sounds like the same problems afflicted that movie. I've also heard that it's pretty much just 90% montage, but who knows? Anyway, back to Logan. The poster depicts Wolverine's claws out. He has, like, cuts and stuff. It's a pretty dark image, almost monotone, actually. Monochrome. And there's this little girl who's holding his hand. It's a close-up on their hands. And I find it to be very symbolic. From descriptions, we know that this girl is X-23, who is a clone of Wolverine in the comics, at least, named Laura Kinney, who is just a great character in the comics. I love what they're doing with her currently. That's all of this. The All New, All Different run is all I've read of that, but it's so good. It's probably one of the best books that Marvel has out right now. And I am very excited to see what they do with her in a movie. They're aging her down, which is a bit odd, but because in the comics she's a teenager, and in this she's seems to be like 7 or 8. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I will probably find it to be pretty awesome. And man, I just get chills from looking at this image. So it's just like, dude, I like it. It's great. Okay. What do you think? I assume you've seen the image?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
But you pretty much said everything that I wanted to say, so we'll just go on to the next topic then.
Yeah. I mean, before we go on to the next topic, let me gush about this a little more. So they also released a picture of Patrick Stewart, Professor Xavier, from the movie today. Man, he's really old. He's really old. That's all I have to say about that. They've also said that this movie is going to take place in 2024. So that's a year after the ending of Days of Future Past, where Logan is in the future. And I guess has clearly grown a beard.
Yeah, well, he always had a beard, but
yeah,
it's going to be
a
bigger beard.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I find it's going to be weird how they incorporate the future stuff into the regular X-Men movies, which are probably still going to be set in like modern times or even in the past, as the last 3 X-Men movies have been. So who knows, right? Yeah, but I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Logan. It's just, my God. It looks so cool. We should be getting a trailer for that soon, so
yeah,
it's gonna be great. Hoping that's gonna be good. So the other thing that came out this week was the season 3 premiere of The Flash. You just watched that last night.
Yep.
I watched it a few nights ago. Or 2 nights ago, whatever. And what do you think?
I thought it was a pretty good episode. I don't know how much to say about it. I expected to like be stuck in that Flashpoint episode, or the Flashpoint universe, for more episodes. Like, I didn't think we'd switch it that quick, and most of the trailer, or the trailers that were dropped, showed footage from the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't expect that, but I thought it was pretty good.
I found it to be... I think it definitely sets up for a better season 3 than season 2.
Yeah.
But it's just... The episode was so... just tidying things up, and I guess it's a nice, like, what-if episode, right? Like, what if all this stuff happened? It just goes back to being normal, and I found myself not caring about Barry's mom dying for, like, the 7th time on screen.
Well, so I don't think you're supposed to care too much about that. I thought, I like the way you put it, as it's a good what-if thing, because I was really curious what they were going to do with it, and it seemed to be like a fun thing to watch the whole Flash universe like become totally different because of something Barry did to the past. But after like midway through the episode, I became kind of sick of this universe, and I really wanted things to go back to normal.
Yeah.
I think it was what kind of got to me was when he goes to Star Labs, which is completely bought out by Cisco at this point, and he's in Star Labs with Wally, Iris, Cisco, and Caitlin, and they hardly know each other, and they can't work together like they were in the first 2 seasons. Yeah. And that was kind of sad to me.
Yeah.
So
Caitlin was just like useless in this episode.
Yeah, and Cisco wasn't like he was kind of a dick. Like,
yeah, I mean,
he was just kind of a dick. And before, he's always that like adorkable character. So.
Yeah. I mean, he was... I find Cisco to be sometimes very annoying with his constant nerd references. It was fun for the first season, and I'm glad they tried to add like some character to him in season 2 besides that. But now it's just, or like probably in the middle of season 1. Actually, I really like what they did in the middle of season 1 with Cisco. That was fun. But I mean, it's just like, hey, here's a what if story, basically. Like, and if you've ever read like the Marvel what if stories, the DC Elseworld stuff, it's just like alternate realities. Yeah. I don't necessarily like how they're continuing to do the alternate timeline in present day.
Wait, so you're talking about the ending of the episode?
Yeah, I thought, oh, hey, maybe this is just going to be a one-time thing, which I won't really enjoy, but then it's just going to get back to regular Flash stuff.
Yeah, that's what I expected.
So it's a good way to open up the season, but it's just...
ending had that twist where Eobard Thawne said something like, oh, your timeline is normal, but you'll see something different, or something along those lines.
Something like that.
And at like the last minute of the episode, Barry says... where's Iris? And then Joe says, that's not funny, walks away. And then Wally says, come on, Barry, you know what happened to Iris.
Come on, Barry. You know what happened to Iris. And then Barry's like, no, I don't. I just changed the timeline for really irresponsible reasons. Because I can't control my emotions.
It's not really clear what happened with Iris. But one thing that's really, really bugging me at this point is the whole will they, won't they with Barry and Iris.
Man,
because it looks like they're going to stretch it again for like a whole nother season. We've already gone through... Okay, the first season, it's okay to say... to like stretch the will they, won't they cliche with Barry and Iris throughout the whole season. The second season, they still continued the will they, won't they. But by the end, it seemed like they got together and everything was all better, I guess. So I was like, okay, good. We don't have to see this whole will they, won't they thing again.
Yeah.
And now it looks like they're still going to do it. So it's really bothering me at this point because we've seen this so much. And I think I'm just going to get sick of it, you know? How do you feel about this?
Yeah. I don't find Iris an interesting character, man. I liked Patty so much better.
Yeah, I did
and
too.
she's
really
just. I hate how they got rid of her for basically no reason. It definitely seemed like something was going on behind the scenes during season 2, where they just like didn't. Something was going on, right?
Well,
and like
they also they do want to get Barry and Iris together.
Yeah, but only because that's how it is in the comics. You don't necessarily need to have that in the actual show, because I'm a strong believer in that adaptions can differ from the source material, but just they have to keep like the like, you know, the themes and what the characters are about and stuff. But it's just, you don't need to have the same romances. You can try to experiment with like new things using the same characters. It's just, I don't necessarily like what they're doing with Iris at all.
Yeah, same.
It's just I haven't found her interesting since season 1, and even in season 1 it was just like, oh, she's the perfect girl, right? It's just
pretty much. And I just want them to either get together or not get together.
Yeah.
I really don't care which one it is, but I'm getting sick of this will they, won't they, because they've stretched it over
3 seasons.
Well,
Jesus, yeah.
Just 2 seasons in one episode of a third season.
2 seasons in one episode.
But
yeah.
it looks like they're going to stretch it over the season.
I mean, I think we were definitely, we like got an answer to that, right? We were like, hey, it's gonna be fine. It's all gonna be good. They're getting together, and we won't have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah, it took 44 episodes.
It's not gonna be a plot that's gonna keep going on. But now they're just like, oh, we have an excuse to redo it all, and it's just, oh my god, I'm not feeling this.
Hopefully they'll come to a conclusion soon in the season. Not really sure if they will, because Flash doesn't really take any like serious turns or have any like it's pretty predictable. Like they usually go by the more cliche type of stories, so it doesn't seem like they're gonna it seems like they're gonna pull a will they or will they not cliche throughout the season. But
so that's pretty much all the time we have for today. I was intending on getting what's it called, Stranger Things out of the way today, but I guess we're not. So I guess we'll do it next week. I think I'm gonna rewatch it because I love that show, let me tell you. So yeah, tune in next week for Stranger Things and probably some other stuff.